The massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber slid open with a soft whisper. Commander Zextal stepped through, his forearms trembling slightly as he approached the speaking platform. The Viridian had seen many things in his 200 years of space exploration, but nothing had prepared him for what he witnessed 3 cycles ago. The chamber held representatives from 50 different species. Their bioluminescent bodies glowed in various colors, creating a rainbow of alien life forms. Some floated in gravity bubbles, others stood on multiple legs, and a few existed as pure energy contained in crystalline shells. All eyes turned toward the nervous Viridian commander. "Honored Council," Zextal began, his voice carrying through the translation fields that surrounded each delegate. "I bring urgent news about the species we discovered in the Outer Rim. The ones who call themselves humans." A ripple of interest passed through the chamber. New species were always exciting, especially ones that had developed space travel without Council guidance. Ambassador Cathara of the Technological Supremacy Coalition leaned forward, her sleek biomechanical form shifting with curiosity. "What makes these humans so special, Commander?" she asked. "Your initial report mentioned primitive technology, metal ships powered by controlled explosions. Surely they pose no threat to our advanced civilizations." Zextal's scales changed from blue to deep purple, a sign of distress in his species. "That is what we thought, honored Ambassador. My scout fleet approached their mining operation in what they call the Kepler Belt. We expected to find crude vessels barely capable of system travel." He paused, his breathing apparatus clicking softly. "What we found instead defied everything we know about space engineering." The chamber grew quiet. Even the energy beings stopped their constant humming. "Their ships," Zextal continued, "are unlike anything in our databases. They appear to be built from simple metal alloys, held together with welds and bolts. No bio-neural networks. No self-repairing organic hulls. No crystalline energy matrices. Just metal, circuits, and chemicals." "Then what concerns you?" asked Elder Vorthik of the Ancient Archive. His massive brain, floating in its life support sphere, pulsed with thought patterns. "Primitive technology should be easy to understand and counter." Zextal's 4 hands clenched into fists. "Because they should not work. According to every law of physics we understand. According to every principle of space engineering we have developed over millions of years. Those human ships should fall apart the moment they enter hyperspace, but they do not." This came from High Engineer Sith, whose crystal body rang like a bell when she spoke. "No, they do not." Zextal's voice dropped to almost a whisper. "And that is not the strangest part. When my science officers scanned their vessels, the readings made no sense. The ships appeared to have multiple backup systems for every function. Not elegant redundancy like our designs, but crude, overlapping systems that seemed to serve the same purpose." Ambassador Cathara made a dismissive sound. "Inefficient engineering. Multiple systems mean multiple failure points. Any first-year student knows this." "That is what we thought," Zextal said. "So we decided to demonstrate the superiority of our technology. My lieutenant fired a standard scanning pulse at their mining vessel. Nothing harmful, just a basic energy probe to analyze their hull composition." The chamber waited in silence. Their ship absorbed the energy pulse completely. Not reflected it, not deflected it. Absorbed it. Then their engines, which had been running at roughly 60% efficiency according to our scans, suddenly jumped to 90% efficiency, as if our energy probe had somehow improved their performance. Several delegates began speaking at once, their voices creating a cacophony of alien languages. Elder Vorthik's brain flashed red as he processed this information. "Impossible," declared Ambassador Cathara. "Energy cannot simply disappear into a ship's hull. There must be some explanation." "We thought so too," Zextal said. So we sent another probe. A stronger one. The human ship absorbed that energy as well. And this time, we watched their whole temperature actually decrease while their engine output increased further. High Engineer Sith's crystal body began to vibrate, producing a low humming sound. You are describing a violation of thermodynamic laws. Energy cannot be destroyed, only converted. Exactly. Zextel's voice rose with excitement and fear. That is when we realized we were not dealing with primitive technology. We were dealing with something we do not understand at all. What happened next? Asked Elder Vorthik, his brain now pulsing with rapid calculations. The humans sent us a message. A simple audio transmission in their basic language. Our translators worked on it for several minutes before we understood what they said. Zextel paused, his scale shifting to a pale yellow. They said, "Thanks for the energy boost. Is there something you need, or are you just saying hello?" The chamber erupted in chaos. Delegates spoke, hummed, flashed, and vibrated all at once. Ambassador Kethara stood up, her biomechanical form towering over the other representatives. "Silence," she commanded. "Commander Zextel, are you telling us that these humans not only absorbed our energy weapons, but thanked us for the attack?" "It was not an attack," Zextel protested weakly. "Just a scanning probe. To them, what is the difference?" Asked Elder Vorthik. "If they can absorb energy directed at their ships, they might view any energy emission as a gift rather than a threat." High Engineer Sith stopped vibrating abruptly. "Commander, you said their technology should not work according to our understanding. Did you consider that maybe our understanding is incomplete?" The question hung in the air like a dangerous chemical. For millions of years, the Galactic Council had explored space using the same basic principles. Organic technology that grew and adapted, or crystalline matrices that channeled pure energy, or biomechanical hybrids that combined the best of both approaches. All of these technologies followed predictable rules. "I recommend we approach these humans with caution," Zextal said. "Their ships may look primitive, but they operate on principles we cannot explain. That makes them unpredictable. And in space, unpredictable usually means dangerous." Ambassador Kethara stood silent for a long moment, considering the implications. Finally, she spoke. "The Council will vote on how to proceed. All in favor of standard first contact protocols?" Most of the delegates raised appendages, flashlights, or vibrated in agreement. Only a few, including Elder Vorthik, abstained. "Motion carried," Kethara announced. "We will approach these humans with a diplomatic fleet and offer them the standard benefits of joining our galactic community. If their technology is as primitive as it appears, they should be grateful for our guidance." Zextal watched the vote with growing dread. He wanted to speak again, to warn them that primitive did not mean harmless. That unpredictable technology in the hands of an unknown species could be more dangerous than any weapon they had ever faced, but the decision was made. The Council would learn about human ships firsthand. He just hoped they would survive the lesson. Captain Maria Santos was drinking her third cup of coffee when the proximity alarms started screaming. She set down her mug carefully and walked to the bridge of the mining ship Lucky Strike, her boots clanging on the metal deck plates. "Report," she said calmly to her crew of 12. "Unknown vessel approaching, Captain," called out Jack Morrison from the sensor station. "It's big, really big, and it doesn't match any design in our database." Maria looked at the main screen, where a ship unlike anything she had ever seen was displayed. It looked more like a giant sea creature than a spacecraft. Smooth, curved surfaces flowed seamlessly into each other, and the hull seemed to pulse with its own light. Distance? 20,000 kilometers in closing. They're moving slow, almost like they want to talk. Maria nodded. This was the moment every human in space had been preparing for since they first left Earth. First contact with an alien species. She activated the ship's communication array and opened a channel on all frequencies. Unknown vessel. This is Captain Maria Santos of the Earthship Lucky Strike. Please identify yourself and state your intentions. The response came quickly, but not in any language they recognized. Strange musical tones and harmonic frequencies filled the bridge. Then, after a few seconds, the sounds changed into something resembling English. Greetings, primitive humans. I am Ambassador Kethara of the Galactic Council. We come to offer you the benefits of civilization and membership in our great community of species. Maria raised an eyebrow. Primitive? That's an interesting way to start a conversation. Your technology is clearly in its early stages, the alien voice continued. We observe that you still use metal hulls and chemical propulsion. We offer to share our advanced biomechanical sciences with you so that you may build proper ships. On the Lucky Strike's bridge, the crew exchanged glances. Their ship was only 3 years old and represented some of humanity's best engineering. The fusion drives that powered them could push the vessel at a significant fraction of light speed. The hull was made from advanced alloys that could withstand asteroid impacts and solar radiation. That's very generous of you, Maria said carefully. But we'll need to discuss this with Earth before making any decisions about joining your council. There was a pause. Then the alien voice returned, and it sounded less friendly. That will not be necessary. Your primitive government cannot possibly understand the benefits we offer. We will take you to the nearest council station for proper education. Maria felt her jaw tighten. I'm sorry, but that's not going to happen. The Lucky Strike is a free ship under Earth authority. We don't take orders from people we just met. You misunderstand, Ambassador Kethara replied. This is not a request. The alien ship moved closer, and Maria could see energy building up along its organic-looking hull. Warning lights began flashing on the Lucky Strike's control panels. Captain, Jack called out from his station. They're targeting us with some kind of energy field. Looks like they're trying to shut down our electronics. Let them try, Maria said grimly. She activated the ship's internal communication system. All hands, we have a hostile alien vessel attempting to disable our ship. Prepare for emergency protocols. The energy beam struck the Lucky Strike with a sound like thunder. Every electronic display on the bridge went dark. The lights went out. Even the coffee maker stopped humming for exactly 3 seconds. Then backup systems activated with a chorus of mechanical clicks and whirs. Emergency lights bathed the bridge in red illumination. Analog gauges popped up from hidden panels. Mechanical switches replaced the electronic controls. Fusion reactor is stable, reported engineer Pete Walsh over the mechanical intercom system. Emergency systems are online. We're running on backup power, but everything's working fine. Maria smiled as she watched her crew switch seamlessly from electronic controls to mechanical ones. Every human ship was designed with the assumption that electronics could fail. The Lucky Strike could be operated entirely by hand if necessary. Jack, target their ship with our mining laser, she ordered. But Captain, that's not a weapon, Jack protested. No, but it's a very powerful laser designed to cut through asteroids. I think it will make our point. The mining laser swiveled on its mechanical mount and pointed directly at the alien vessel. A bright red targeting beam painted the organic hull. Ambassador Kethara, Maria said into her microphone. You have 5 seconds to back off before we test how well your bioship handles industrial mining equipment. The alien ship stopped moving immediately. The energy beam that had been trying to disable their electronics shut off. How are you still operational? Kethara demanded. Your primitive electronics should have been completely disabled. Our electronics were disabled, Maria admitted. for about 3 seconds. Then our backups kicked in. Backups? What kind of backups? Maria looked around her bridge, where her crew was now operating the ship using manual controls, analog instruments, and mechanical systems that had been built into the hull alongside the electronic ones. The kind that work when the fancy stuff doesn't, she said simply. On the alien ship, Ambassador Cathara stared at her sensor readings in confusion. The human vessel was operating at full capacity, despite having no functioning electronic systems. According to her instruments, the ship was now running on what appeared to be purely mechanical devices. "This is impossible," she muttered to her aide. "How do they coordinate ship functions without a bioneural network? Perhaps they use quantum entanglement communication?" suggested the aide. "No, I'm detecting no quantum signatures at all. They appear to be using primitive radio waves and physical control cables." Cathara could not understand how a ship could function effectively with such crude systems. Her own vessel was a marvel of biomechanical engineering, with living neural networks that could process millions of calculations per second and adapt to any situation. The human ship looked like it was held together with metal welding and operated by hand. Yet it was targeting her with a weapon that her sensors indicated could actually damage her hull. "Captain Santos," she said finally, "we seem to have gotten off to a bad start. Perhaps we should discuss this matter with your planetary government." "That sounds like a much better idea," Maria agreed. "You're welcome to follow us back to Earth. Our government would be very interested in meeting you." "We will bring a proper diplomatic fleet," Cathara announced, "to demonstrate the benefits of joining our civilization." "You do that," Maria said. "But Ambassador, next time you want to talk, try starting with hello instead of trying to shut down our ship. We humans don't respond well to threats." The alien vessel pulled back to a respectful distance. Ambassador Cathara sent a message to the Galactic Council fleet, requesting that they prepare for a formal diplomatic mission to the human homeworld. As she watched the human mining ship begin its journey toward the inner system, she made notes in her report. The humans had responded to her ship's pacification field, not with surrender, but with a threat of violence. Their primitive technology had somehow resisted her advanced systems. Worst of all, they had shown no interest in the benefits of council membership. This was not how first contact was supposed to go. On the lucky strike, Maria and her crew were already back to using their electronic systems, which had automatically restored themselves once the alien energy field stopped interfering with them. But they kept the mechanical backups ready, just in case. "Think they'll cause trouble when they reach Earth?" Jack asked. Maria sipped her coffee, which had somehow stayed warm through the entire encounter. "Probably. But that's why we have a navy. Besides, did you see how surprised they were when our backups worked? I don't think they understand human engineering at all." "What do you mean?" "Their ship is probably designed to work perfectly under normal conditions," Maria explained. "Our ships are designed to work no matter what goes wrong. That's going to be a very unpleasant surprise for them." Outside, the alien vessel followed at a distance as both ships headed toward the bright star that humans called Sol. Neither species realized that they were about to participate in a meeting that would change both of their civilizations forever. The aliens expected to demonstrate their technological superiority to a primitive species. The humans were about to show them that sometimes the best technology is the kind that refuses to quit working. The Galactic Council diplomatic fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system like a collection of living jewels. 12 bioships hung in the darkness, their organic hulls pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that spoke of ancient genetic engineering and millions of years of evolution. Ambassador Cathara stood in the control chamber of her flagship, the serene thought, watching the sensor displays with satisfaction. Each ship in her fleet was a masterpiece of biotechnology, living vessels that could repair themselves, adapt to new situations, and share thoughts through bioneural networks that connected every crew member into a unified consciousness. "Magnificent," she said to her aide. "The humans cannot help but be impressed by our technological achievements." The aide's tentacles flickered with agreement. "Surely when they see our fleet, they will understand the benefits of joining the Council." Cathara nodded. She had brought 12 ships to demonstrate the power and beauty of Council technology. Each vessel was the size of a human city, grown rather than built, shaped by genetic designers who had spent lifetimes perfecting their art. "Send a message to the human homeworld," she ordered. "Tell them the Galactic Council has arrived for formal diplomatic contact." The bioneural network of her ship reached out across space, sending the message on quantum frequencies that could cross star systems in minutes. The response came back almost immediately. "Galactic Council Fleet, this is Admiral Chun of Earth Defense. Welcome to our system. Please state your intentions and maintain your current position while we arrange proper diplomatic protocols." Cathara frowned. "Diplomatic protocols? We are the ones offering the membership in galactic civilization. Why do they act as if they are in charge?" Before her aide could answer, the fleet's sensors began detecting movement throughout the Sol system. Ships were appearing from behind asteroids, emerging from the shadow of planets, and rising from what had appeared to be empty space. "How many human vessels are there?" Cathara asked. Her tactical officer, a squid-like being whose neurons were directly connected to the ship's sensor array, flickered through several color changes before answering. "I count over 200 ships, Ambassador. But the readings are confusing." "Confusing how?" "Many of them appear to be civilian vessels. Cargo haulers, mining ships, research vessels. But they are all moving into defensive positions around their homeworld." Cathara studied the tactical display. The human ships were indeed positioning themselves between her fleet and the blue-green world they called Earth. But they were doing it in a pattern she had never seen before. Instead of forming neat battle lines like proper military vessels, they were spreading out in a seemingly random formation that somehow managed to cover every possible approach route. What kind of military doctrine is this? She wondered aloud. "Perhaps they are not military vessels at all," suggested her aide. "Perhaps the humans simply do not understand proper fleet formations." But as Cathara watched, she began to notice details that made her uncomfortable. The cargo ships were opening bay doors to reveal racks of missiles. The mining vessels were extending drilling equipment that looked suspiciously like weapons. Even the research ships were deploying sensors and communication arrays that seemed far too advanced for simple scientific work. "Are we looking at a military fleet disguised as civilians?" she asked her tactical officer. "I do not think so, Ambassador. The ships genuinely appear to be civilian vessels, but they have all been modified for combat." "Modified? How quickly can civilians modify their ships?" "According to our scans, some of these modifications appear to have been made during their journey from the outer system, while they were traveling here." Cathara felt a chill run through her biomechanical spine. "You mean they rebuilt their ships while flying through space?" "Yes, Ambassador. And they are still making modifications. We are observing real-time changes to several vessels as they reconfigure their internal systems. This was impossible. Council ships were designed and grown to specific purposes. A cargo ship was a cargo ship. A warship was a warship. The idea that a vessel could change its fundamental purpose while in operation violated every principle of proper engineering. "Send another message," Cathara ordered. "Tell them we wish to demonstrate the benefits of Council technology." Admiral Chun's response came back quickly. "Council Fleet, we appreciate your offer, but we have our own technology. If you wish to demonstrate anything, please do so at a safe distance from our inhabited worlds." Cathara's biomechanical features shifted into an expression of annoyance. "They refuse our generous offer?" How can they refuse something they have not seen? Perhaps a small demonstration would help them understand, suggested her aide. Excellent idea. Tactical officer, prepare the serene thought for a standard technology display. Show them how our bioship can adapt and evolve. The serene thought began to change shape, its living hull flowing like liquid as genetic programs activated throughout its structure. Weapon pods emerged from the organic surface. Shield generators grew from the ship's skin. Additional sensor arrays sprouted like flowers blooming in fast motion. It was a beautiful display of biotechnology, the kind that had impressed dozens of species into joining the Pivosdine Council willingly. The human response was immediate and terrifying. Every ship in the human fleet began changing simultaneously. Cargo bays opened to reveal missile launchers. Hull plates slid apart to expose beam weapons. Ships that had looked like harmless freight haulers suddenly bristled with enough firepower to level a city. But that was not the worst part. The worst part was that every human ship changed differently. Where council vessels followed predetermined genetic programs, the human ships seemed to be improvising their modifications in real time. A mining ship turned its ore processing equipment into a mass driver. A passenger liner deployed defensive screens made from its own hull plating. A research vessel turned its laboratory equipment into some kind of exotic particle beam. How are they doing this? Cathara whispered. Her tactical officer was cycling through every color in his species spectrum, indicating extreme confusion. Ambassador, according to our scans, the humans are manually rebuilding their ships while we watch. Each vessel is following a different modification pattern. It's as if every ship in their fleet is being redesigned by its own crew. That's impossible. You cannot redesign a ship's basic systems while it is operating. The gravitational stresses alone would tear the hull apart. And yet they are doing it anyway, the tactical officer reported. Furthermore, their ships do not appear to be in communication with each other, yet they are coordinating their movements with perfect precision. Cathara studied the tactical display with growing alarm. Her fleet of 12 perfect bioships now faced over 200 human vessels, each one different from the others. Each one apparently designed specifically for this exact situation. Admiral Chun, she transmitted. Your fleet appears to be preparing for combat. We came here in peace. Council fleet, came the reply. You just demonstrated military capabilities within our home system. In human military doctrine, that is considered a hostile act. However, we are still willing to discuss peaceful contact if you are. We were merely showing you the benefits of our technology, Cathara protested. By showing us how your ships can grow weapons? Admiral Chun's voice carried a note of amusement. Ambassador, in our experience, when someone shows you their weapons during a first meeting, they're usually planning to use them. Cathara looked around her control chamber. Her aide was trembling with nervousness. Her tactical officer was still cycling through colors of confusion. The bioneural network that connected her crew was buzzing with anxiety. They had come here expecting to meet a primitive civilization that would be grateful for advanced technology. Instead, they had found a species that could turn civilian ships into warships faster than council vessels could adapt to new situations. Admiral Chun, she said finally, perhaps we should discuss this matter more formally. Would your government be willing to meet with our diplomatic team? Absolutely, Chun replied. But I suggest we do it at a neutral location. An ambassador? Next time you want to impress us with your technology, maybe start with something that doesn't look like a weapon system. As the two fleets settled into a careful standoff, Cathara began to understand what Commander Zextel had been trying to warn them about. Human technology did not follow the rules. Human ships did not behave like proper vessels should. And most disturbing of all, the humans seemed to treat this impossibility as perfectly normal. She was beginning to suspect that the Council's understanding of technology was about to be challenged in ways they had never imagined. The battle began with a misunderstanding that would have been funny if it had not nearly started an interstellar war. Bioscientist Ethel aboard the Council ship Flowing Wisdom was studying the human vessels through her ship's advanced sensors when she noticed something fascinating. One of the human mining ships had a hull composition unlike anything in the galactic databases. The metal showed stress patterns that suggested it had been forged in ways that violated standard metallurgy. "I must have a sample," she announced to her research team. "Captain, please extend a bioprobe to collect specimens from that mining vessel." Captain Veltar of the Flowing Wisdom nodded and gave the order. A long tentacle-like appendage grew from his ship's hull and reached toward the human mining ship. Lucky Strike, the same vessel that had first encountered Ambassador Kethara. On the Lucky Strike, alarms immediately started screaming. "Captain Santos, we have an alien ship extending some kind of weapon toward us," reported Jack Morrison from his sensor station. Maria Santos looked at her tactical display. The organic probe approaching her ship looked exactly like the bioweapons that Earth's intelligence services had warned them about. Alien vessels that could literally reach out and grab other ships. "All Earth ships, this is Lucky Strike," she transmitted on the emergency frequency. "We are under attack by an alien bioweapon. Repeat, we are under attack." What happened next took exactly 4 seconds and changed the course of galactic history. Admiral Chun, monitoring the situation from his flagship, gave the order that every Earthship captain had been trained to follow. All vessels, defend the Lucky Strike. Fire at will. The human fleet opened fire simultaneously. 200 ships launched missiles, plasma bolts, mass driver rounds, and weapons that the Council had never seen before. The Flowing Wisdom, still extending its harmless bioprobe toward the Lucky Strike, suddenly found itself under attack by enough firepower to sterilize a planet. Evasive maneuvers. Captain Veltar screamed, but his bioship was not designed for sudden course changes. The massive vessel began to turn as quickly as its living systems allowed, which was not nearly fast enough. The first wave of human weapons struck the Council ship with devastating effect. Missiles designed to crack asteroids punched holes in the organic hull. Plasma bolts meant for mining operations burned through bio-armor like it was paper. Mass driver rounds that could move mountains hammered into the ship's vital systems, but the Flowing Wisdom did not die quietly. As damage spread through its living hull, the bioship's genetic programs activated emergency protocols. The vessel began to grow new armor plating, sealing hull breaches, and sprouting defensive weapons from every available surface. "Impossible," breathed Admiral Chun as he watched the alien ship literally heal itself while under fire. "It's regenerating faster than we can damage it." The other Council ships, seeing their companion under attack, immediately moved to assist. The bioneural network that connected all their crews buzzed with shared alarm and tactical data. Within seconds, 11 more ships were accelerating toward the human fleet, their hulls bristling with weapons that had evolved over millions of years. "All human vessels," Admiral Chun transmitted. "We are now in full combat. Engage at will and adapt as necessary." This was the moment when the Council forces learned why Commander Zex Tal had been so afraid. Human ships did not fight like any other species in the galaxy. Council vessels followed predetermined battle patterns programmed into their genetic structure. When attacked, they would grow defensive systems, return fire with appropriate weapons, and attempt to disable enemy vessels according to standard military doctrine. Human ships threw out every rule of space combat and made up new ones as they went along. The cargo hauler, Big Money, carrying a load of industrial equipment to Mars, suddenly opened its freight doors and began launching construction robots armed with cutting torches. The cargo vessel had turned its entire cargo into an army of impromptu fighter drones in less than 30 seconds. The passenger liner Happy Journey deployed its emergency life pods, but instead of using them for evacuation, the crew had somehow turned them into guided missiles. Hundreds of small craft swarmed toward the council ships, each one packed with whatever explosives the passengers had been able to improvise from their luggage. The research ship, Deep Thinker, activated its experimental laboratory equipment and began firing a beam that made council bioships simply stop working. Whatever the beam did to living tissue, it caused the alien vessels to become sluggish and confused, as if their bioneural networks were falling asleep. But the mining ship Stubborn Mule provided the most terrifying display of human engineering philosophy. When a council ship's bioweapon managed to punch through the Stubborn Mule's hull, breaching the engine compartment and causing massive system failures, the crew did not abandon ship. Instead, they did something that no other species in the galaxy would have attempted. They turned their dying ship into a weapon. Engine room to bridge came the voice of Chief Engineer Mary Walsh over the comm system. We've lost main power and life support is failing, but the fusion reactor is still stable. Abandon ship, Mary, Captain Ross ordered. Negative, sir. We've got a better idea. Give us 2 minutes to rig the reactor for overload, then ram that alien ship. We'll evacuate to the cargo bay and use the mining suits to survive the impact. Captain Ross stared at his chief engineer as if she had lost her mind. Mary, you want to turn our ship into a guided missile? The hull's already compromised, Captain. We're not going to make it to a repair station, but we can take one of those bioships with us. Do it. The Stubborn Mule, trailing atmosphere and debris from its wounded hull, suddenly changed course and accelerated directly toward the council ship Graceful Current. The alien vessel's bioneural network registered the approach of the damaged human ship and calculated that it was either attempting to ram them or seeking assistance. The truth was somehow both and neither. At the last moment before impact, the Stubborn Mule's crew triggered their jury-rigged fusion reactor, overload, and evacuated to the heavily armored mining bay in the ship's center. The vessel struck the Graceful Current with the force of a small nuclear weapon, its exploding reactor core tearing a massive hole in the bioship's living hull. But the human crew survived the impact in their improvised shelter and immediately began cutting their way out of the wreckage to continue fighting on foot. They are insane, whispered Ambassador Kethera as she watched the tactical display. They just destroyed their own ship to damage ours, and they are still trying to fight. Her tactical officer was cycling through colors so rapidly that he appeared to be having some kind of breakdown. Ambassador, the human vessels are not following any known combat patterns. Each ship is employing completely different tactics. It is as if every crew is making up their own way of fighting. This was exactly what was happening. Human ships were not connected by bioneural networks. Each crew was independent, commanded by individuals who had spent their entire careers learning to solve problems with whatever resources they had available. When their weapons ran out, they used their cargo as ammunition. When their ships were damaged, they turned the damage into new weapons. When their vessels were destroyed, they tried to take enemy ships with them. The Council fleet, for all their advanced biotechnology, had never faced an enemy that treated the destruction of their own ships as just another tactical option. Admiral, transmitted Captain Veltar from the badly damaged Flowing Wisdom, I recommend we withdraw. The humans are not fighting like civilized beings. They are fighting like berserkers who care nothing for their own survival. Kethara looked at her tactical display, where 12 perfect bioships were being systematically dismantled by 200 human vessels that seemed willing to try anything, no matter how dangerous or impossible it seemed. All ships, she transmitted, withdraw at a minimum safe distance. Cease all offensive operations immediately. As the Council fleet pulled back, The human ships stopped firing, but maintained their aggressive positions. Several of them were still rebuilding themselves even as the battle ended, turning combat damage into improved armor and better weapons. Admiral Chun opened a communication channel. Council Fleet, this is Admiral Chun. I hope this incident has clarified our position. We are willing to discuss peaceful contact, but we will defend ourselves against any perceived threat. Katara stared at the human fleet with a mixture of respect and terror. She had just witnessed 200 supposedly civilian vessels defeat a military force that had never lost a battle in 10,000 years of Council expansion. And they had done it by refusing to follow any of the rules that made space combat predictable and civilized. Admiral Chun, she replied, I believe we need to discuss more than just peaceful contact. We need to discuss how your people fight wars. Wars? Chen's voice carried a note of confusion. Ambassador, that wasn't a war. That was just a misunderstanding. As the implications of that statement sank in, Katara realized that the Council was going to have to completely reevaluate their understanding of human capabilities. If this was how humans fought when they were caught by surprise, what would they be like in an actual war? 3 weeks after what historians would later call the Sol System incident, a much smaller Council delegation met with human representatives at Harmony Station, a neutral diplomatic platform built in the empty space between Earth and Mars. Ambassador Katara sat across from Admiral Chun in a conference room, designed to accommodate both human and alien physiology. But the real surprise was the third being at the table, Commander Zextol of the Viridian Scouts, who had requested permission to attend this historic meeting. Before we begin formal negotiations, Zextol said, his forearms gesturing nervously, I need to explain what I tried to warn the Council about. What I saw that frightened me so much. Admiral Chun leaned forward with interest. Please, Commander. We're very curious about your perspective. Zextal's scales shifted through several colors before settling on a pale blue that indicated deep thought. When my scout fleet first encountered your mining ship, we made assumptions based on our understanding of how space technology works. We have traveled the galaxy for millions of years, meeting hundreds of species. All of them follow the same basic principles, which are, asked Chun. Optimization and specialization, Katara interjected. Every advanced civilization eventually develops technology that is perfectly designed for specific purposes. Our bioships grow into specialized forms. The Crystal Collective builds matrices tuned to precise frequencies. The machine intelligence creates vessels optimized for maximum efficiency. And then we met humans, Zextol continued. Your ships violate every principle of advanced engineering. They are inefficient. They use crude materials. They waste energy on systems that serve the same purpose. By every measure we understand, they should not work. Admiral Chun smiled. But they do work. More than work, Zextol said, his voice dropping to almost a whisper. They adapt. They improvise. They become whatever they need to be in any situation. That is what terrified me. He activated a holographic display showing the sensor readings from his first encounter with the Lucky Strike. When we scanned your ship, we discovered something that should have been impossible. Your vessel was not just a ship. It was a partnership. A partnership? Katara asked. Between human creativity and mechanical possibility, Zextol explained. Council ships are designed to be perfect. Your ships are designed to be changed. Every human vessel we encountered was built to be rebuilt, modified, and adapted by its crew. Admiral Chun nodded slowly. That's not exactly a secret, Commander. Every human ship is designed with modularity in mind. We learned early that space throws unexpected problems at you, and the best solution is to be ready to solve problems we haven't thought of yet. But it goes deeper than that, Zextol insisted. He brought up another display, this one showing brain scans taken during the battle. When we analyzed the neural patterns of human crews during combat, we discovered something extraordinary. You do not just operate your ships. You think with them. Cathara leaned closer to examine the data. These readings show neural activity patterns I have never seen before. What am I looking at? Humans, Zextal said, form a direct mental connection with their ships. Not through bio-neural networks like the Council uses, but through a process we do not understand. When a human crew works together to modify their ship, they are not just following engineering principles. They are expressing collective creativity through mechanical systems. Admiral Chun was quiet for a long moment. Then he activated his own display, showing a cutaway view of a typical Earth vessel. Commander Zextal is more right than he knows, Chun said. Human ships are not just machines. They are expressions of human problem-solving philosophy. Every backup system, every redundant component, every manual override represents our refusal to accept that any problem cannot be solved. He highlighted different sections of the ship as he spoke. When you attacked the Lucky Strike with your energy weapon, you expected it to disable our electronics and leave us helpless. Instead, our backup systems activated, and our crew adapted to new operating conditions in seconds. We turned your attack into an opportunity to demonstrate our capabilities. But how? Cathara asked. How do you coordinate complex ship operations without a unified control system? Because we do not need our ships to be perfect, Chun replied. We need them to work with us. Every human vessel is designed so that its crew can understand and modify every system on board. We do not just trust our technology. We partner with it. Zextal's scales brightened with understanding. That is what I saw. That is what frightened me. Your ships are not just vessels. They are tools that amplify human stubbornness. Chun laughed. Stubbornness is a good word for it. Humans have a tendency to refuse to accept that something cannot be done. When we encounter a problem, we do not optimize our technology to handle that specific problem. We modify our technology to handle any problem we can imagine, plus some we probably have not thought of yet. During the battle, Cathara said slowly, we watched your crews rebuild their ships while fighting. Cargo vessels became warships. Mining equipment became weapons. Damaged systems became new capabilities. It was like watching mechanical chaos somehow organize itself into victory. Not chaos, Chun corrected. Adaptation. Every human who goes into space learns the same basic principle. If something breaks, fix it. If you cannot fix it, work around it. If you cannot work around it, turn it into something useful. And if all else fails, use whatever you have available to solve the problem in front of you. Zextal activated another display. This one showing the wreckage of the mining ship Stubborn Mule. Your crew turned their destroyed vessel into a weapon and survived the explosion. Then they tried to continue fighting on foot. That level of adaptation is beyond anything we have encountered. That is just human nature, Chun said simply. We do not give up, ever. Our ships reflect that philosophy. They are built to keep working no matter what happens to them, because we need them to be as stubborn as we are. Ambassador Cathara sat in silence for several minutes, processing the implications of what she had learned. Finally, she spoke. The Council has spent millions of years perfecting technology to eliminate problems. You have spent your entire history perfecting your ability to solve problems. These are fundamentally different approaches to existence. Yes, Chun agreed. And I think that is why first contact went so badly. You expected us to be impressed by perfect technology. We saw perfect technology and immediately started thinking about how to improve it. Improve it? Cathara asked, confused. Chun smiled. Commander Zextal, When your ship first scanned the Lucky Strike, what happened to our engine efficiency? It increased, Zextal admitted. Your ship somehow used our scanning energy to boost its performance. Because Captain Santos and her crew immediately figured out how to turn your energy probe into a power source, Chun explained. That is what humans do. We take whatever the universe gives us and we make it work for us. Tivers's biomechanical features shifted into what her species considered an expression of profound respect. Your ships are not just vessels. They are manifestations of human will. Now you are starting to understand, Chun said. Human technology is not about creating perfect machines. It is about creating machines that can be perfected by humans who refuse to accept limitations. Zextal's scales cycled through several colors before settling on deep purple, indicating awe mixed with fear. That is what I tried to warn the Council about. Humans do not just use technology. They force technology to transcend its limitations through pure stubborn creativity. And that, said Admiral Chun, is why human ships are unique in the galaxy. They are not just built to work. They are built to work with us as we figure out how to do the impossible. Ambassador Kethera looked at the display showing human ship designs, battle footage from the Sol System incident, and neural scans of human crews. Everything she had learned about space technology over her long career suddenly seemed limited and narrow. The Council will need time to understand the implications of this, she said finally. We have never encountered a species that approaches technology as a partnership rather than a tool. Take all the time you need, Chun replied. We are not going anywhere. And Ambassador? Next time the Council encounters something they do not understand, maybe listen to their scouts a little more carefully. Zextal's scales brightened with what his species considered laughter. I have learned my lesson, Admiral. When humans are involved, the impossible is just another engineering challenge waiting to be solved. As the diplomatic meeting continued, representatives from both civilizations began to understand that they were not just discussing first contact protocols. They were establishing the foundation for a relationship between two completely different ways of thinking about technology, problem solving, and the role of intelligence in the universe. The Council had spent millions of years creating perfect solutions to known problems. Humans had spent their entire history creating imperfect solutions that could evolve into perfect answers for problems nobody had thought of yet. And in the vast emptiness of space, where the unknown was always just one jump away, that philosophy made human ships not just unique, but invaluable. The galaxy was about to discover that sometimes the best technology is not the most advanced.